Guy, 3 Curdape, 2 Grim Lavamancer, 4 Burning Tree Emissary, 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, 3 Gore-Clan Rampager, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Chain Lightning.
Chain Lightning's not modern legal.
That's the only one.
That's it.
That's it. And then, of course, a dual land mana base from Legacy. There's 2 Taigas, 2 Plateaus, a Savannah, a whole bunch of fetches, a couple copies of Horizon Canopy, just 1 Wasteland.
Oh, there we go. That's a 5th card.
You're right about that. Forgot about
right.
that. So 5 Legacy cards here. And it's obviously working out for Mcdonough. He's sitting at 7-2. We don't know if an X2 is going to sneak in, but he would be one of the ones I imagine that could. He's playing against Stephen Mann, Pro Tour Gate Crash Top 8 competitor, who is very skilled and has won a Legacy Open already once this year in Atlanta, playing Rug Delver. He's playing Bug Delver this go around, and there's a Grim Lava, actually, excuse me, there's a Goblin Guy that's on the stack right now.
Yeah, and so normally you say, hey, Bug Delver is a pretty tier 1 Legacy deck. It's a great deck. Ryan McDonough's more or less playing a Modern deck. This can't be that good for him. But if you go back to where Modern is, one of the reasons that you see tempo decks like Delver and Fairies not do particularly well right now is because the hardest matchup for, say, a Fairies deck in Modern is Zoo. Like, you can board 8, 9 cards just for the matchup, and it's still pretty bad for you.
Yeah.
And so I would think this is a matchup normally where this is a good matchup for Zoo. Now, it might be that just the power level of Steven's cards will bully this Zoo deck enough that it doesn't matter that it's normally a bad matchup. He's going to get it anyway.
Yeah, one of the things that Mcdonough is actually a little bit rough against is Tarmogoyf. It's actually kind of a hard card for me because he doesn't have Path to Exile, which you normally find in Zoo decks. Here's a Brainstorm here from Mann, so I think this is going to make sure that he does hit a land here with the Goblin Guide. But, you know, the only way he can really get through a large Tarmogoyf is a Gore-Clan Rampager.
Yeah, and so he has Gore-Clan Rampager for it, so that's something. But there are things he'll have to fight through. You know, Deathrite Shaman gives, which, you know, you can't really play in Modern. That's going to go ahead and give Bug Delver that extra leg up in mana. There are some things that, I mean, I still think the Zoo deck's pretty well positioned. Like, him to Turok, Zoo really could care less about that kind of card.
Yeah, I mean, everything they have is, you know, pretty redundant, so it's not going to matter that much. Goblin Guy going to reveal a Bayou thanks to Brainstorm setting it up that way. Mann's going to end up taking 2. He's at 17 here, so he does add that to his hand. Could have Force Will, could have Dazed, chose not to do either. Does draw a copy of Spell Pierce, a card that's actually pretty poor in this matchup for Mann. So it makes you wonder if Mann knows what he's up against, because right now this actually looks like a burn opening.
Yeah, it looks like a burn deck, and Mann very confident in his hand to not daze a turn 1 Goblin Guide, instead to opt to get an extra card. That shows a position of strength, or at least a perceived position of strength on Steven's side.
Tarmogoyf is the draw here. Mcdonough is going to start off with a Windswept Heath. He'll go down to 18. He's going to search out a land here. Could just be basic forest. We'll see. It looks like he's trying to play around Wasteland the best that he can.
Yeah, and this is where the jig changes a little bit. You know, Windswept Heath, that's not a card that mono red plays. So if your man suddenly realizing, hey, this is a different deck than I first thought.
And now Savannah looks to be maybe a dead giveaway. All right, you're not Burn. What are you? I guess maybe you're a weird Zoo deck, which is actually the case here. So Mcdonough is going to cast a spell here. The question is which one. It looks like it's going to be Burning Tree Emissary, which is actually a pretty good Daze target.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of what else the deck would be. Yep, this is going to be Zoo, Burning Tree Emissary. I think that Mann will have to counter here. Remember, he doesn't actually have a sweeper. I don't think he can... 3 creatures on the first 2 turns seems like it'd be problematic for Mann. Not to mention it could be 4 creatures. You know, Mcdonough could have 2 more 1-drops, a red and a green.
Yeah, Mikado and a Curdape, for example. And this is going to be a Replicate there. I think we're going to see a Daze too. Yeah, and that's a pretty good Daze target, so Mann is going to pick up the Underground Sea to take care of that. That'll slow Mcdonough down a little bit, and now Mann is going to untap. It's time to take a draw here. You see a Delver of Secrets over there, picked up another copy of Daze. He's also got a Wasteland. Unfortunately for Mann, 2 copies of Spell Pierce, but one of those Spell Pierces will likely be removed to Force of Will.
Yeah, so it's interesting here. Normally, this is a great position where, you know, you say, hey, a blue deck got rid of all of Zoo's creatures. It's probably going to win. It's playing the control game. Bug Delver doesn't play control that well. In this matchup, it's leaning on Tarmogoyf rather hard. Like, Mann can 1-for-1 all he wants. He does have the fact that he has Brainstorm, so he gets slightly better draws than Mcdonough. But remember, while Delver of Secrets has to flip to become a 3-2, cards like Wild and Cattle from Mcdonough, they just are 3 power for no investment cost.
Burning Tree Emissary placed in the stack here. We'll see if Mann wants to try to counter this one. He says, how many cards do you have in your hand? Looks like the answer is in between 4 to 5 here for Mcdonough. Of course, Emissary's big plan here is allow you to cast a couple of spells. A 2-2 isn't all that impressive, but it's actually not bad against Mann's deck.
Burning Tree Emissary in a lot of these decks reminds me of what Frogmite used to be in Affinity decks, where, you know, it's not really a great card, but it's part of the whole. It's a 0 mana 2-2. It's not 0 mana until turn 2. Frogmite was kind of the same way. You rarely got it on turn 1, but it was just part of the whole plan.
Forcible removing Spell Pierce. We'll take care of that. Mcdonough will sacrifice that wooded foothills. Time to go searching for a land here yet again. Man just trying to play a tempo game here.
Yeah, Mann's playing a tempo game, but tempo is hard against Zoo just because of how efficient all these creatures are. You know, Mann doesn't have that Jace-style card or Stoneforge into Batter Skull that someone would have to deal with this. He can 1 for 1 all he wants, but his creatures are not going to do, they're just going to do very little.
Goblin Guide getting taken care of by Daze. So Man getting all the value out of his cards. You see the hand right now, there's a Wasteland, there's a Spell Pierce, and there's another land. So now he's got to try to ride this Delver to victory because he doesn't have anything left. So take a look at the top. That's not going to find what he's looking for. Of course, the Delver can still attack here, but he really wants that to flip into a 3-2 so he can clock the opponent.
Yeah, Mann has to be pretty happy that he got value off that Daze. We were getting pretty late in the game for Daze to still be a player, and he snagged a very real Goblin Guide with it. So life totals are healthy. Step 1's good for Mann. He does have a threat, but where a lot of times Delver is the card he wants to win the game with, you know, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1 play Delver. It's really more Tarmogoyf that he's looking for in this matchup.
Yeah, that's the big backbreaker. And the question is, can he find one? Of course, he does have 4, dealing on 4 Deathrite Shaman and 4 Delver Secrets as creatures, but he hasn't found one yet this game. He's going to fire off a Wasteland and take care of the Savannah, attack for 1, and of course pass the turn back over to Mcdonough, who does draw a copy of Gorkland Rampager. That's a Horizon Canopy, and actually Mcdonough does have a copy of Tarmogoyf in the grip. And it looks like he's going to try to deploy that right now. He's going to take 1 to do so. So now, here comes, well, in just a moment, we believe we will see Tarmogoyf. So there that is. Man, going to take a look at his hand. Again, you see a couple of lands and a Spell Pierce, so not going to counter that one. Man takes a look at the top card. It's a Deathrite Shaman. It's a pretty good draw, but again, I think he'd much rather flip that Delver.
Yeah, it's just hard for Mann to play a tempo game here because he doesn't really have a finisher. He's not ever, like the way he stabilizes is by brainstorming, cracking a fetch land, and just having better draws than Mcdonough. That's a pretty soft end for a control strategy.
Yeah. See Tarmogoyf right now in play as a 3-4. Oddly enough, no sorceries in the graveyard just yet. Deathrite Shaman will come onto the battlefield. Mcdonough's going to untap. Time to take a draw. You saw he was not willing to fire off that Lightning Bolt. Maybe playing around Spell Pierce and or Daze.
I like the patience he showed there. He already turned on a turn 4 Daze. You don't want to activate Spell Pierce this late, especially not against a deck that really, Spell Pierce should be a near dead card in this matchup.
In comes Tarmogoyf for 3. The race is certainly on now. Mcdonough with a Bolt, a Rampager, and Experiment 1. Let's see if he wants to lead out with the Lightning Bolt or the Experiment 1. It looks like it's going to be Experiment 1.
If he's going to make that play, that means he shouldn't be Lightning Bolting this turn. It's more likely he would have wanted to start with Experiment 1 and then Bolt. Yeah, this is going to open him up, unfortunately, to the Lightning Bolt. Had he sequenced these in the other order, the Bolt would work.
Yeah, the Bolt would not get Spell Pierced here, but it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. Man's going to take a look at the graveyard here really quickly. Check the size of everything, see how many instants or sorceries are down there for Deathrite Shaman. So, again, Tarmogoyf sitting here at a 3-4. No sorceries in the graveyard just yet, and actually Man can control that with the Deathrite Shaman if he'd like. However, we might have a little bit of a battle here over this Deathrite Shaman because of Spell Pierce. And now, Man says, yeah, I think I got to protect this, so down at 12 he's going to go, we believe. So now it's time to search out a land. We'll see if it'll be tropical or underground.
Yeah, Man getting value out of a pretty dead card here. That'll be good, but once again, he's still behind in this race. Deathrite Shaman will help. If he can flip the Delver, it'll help. He's down on the board 12 to 15. Mcdonough has just as much power as he has, and he also has that Gorkland Rampager waiting to really pump things up.
Yeah, that'll probably be a surprise. I don't think Superman's going to see that coming.
Yeah, that's not on most Legacy players' radar. I actually do like it.
I do too. I really do. I think it's a good card. I think if you're trying to take care of Tarmogoyf, it might be a better way to do it than Path to Exile.
In Modern Zoo, I remember testing as soon as they unbanned a cattle and being like, hey, maybe we should play some Rampagers. And we start out with 2, and first game got up to 3, then testing got to 4. Then we realized that not only do we want 4, but it's the best card in about half the matchups. Its stock just kept going higher.
Ponder is going to be revealed to the Delver, so now it is an Insectile Aberration. You see the life totals here, 15 for Mcdonough, 12 for Man. So Man is a little bit behind right now. Maybe Ponder can find him something to help. So
yeah.
It's time to take a look.
Man can start raising here. Because this shows where his late game may be better than Zoo's. He's just playing blue, and in Legacy that's a great thing to be doing. You see, he just gets to find more threats, find another ponder. He can control his draws better. He can win a top decking war, even though Mcdonough has tools like Horizon Canopy.
The only thing this does is it really just shows the power of Deathrite Shaman. That's the real key to me. You can attack for 3 here, because Deathrite Shaman will actually just let you win the race, either gaining or draining them out. And I know he's going to deploy another one here. Now, the first one, of course, is active, so the race is certainly on here. What's going to be really interesting to see is, does Mcdonough attack with the experiment one? We know he has the Rampager. The question is, will Mann block? He has to be like, what if you're attacking, what's going on? As Tarmogoyf does take up to a 4-5. But it looks like Mcdonough's going to stay back. I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah, it looks like he's not willing to commit to that Gorklan Rampager as a trick. Maybe he wants it as a creature here.
Yeah, so Sorcery Rule removed here. Tarmogoyf's going to take down to the 3-4. As I mentioned, Deathrite will be able to control that. Arid Mesa after damage. And this looks like, very simply, to actually hardcast Rampager. I wonder if it's better to hardcast this or just actually use it for Blood Rush.
I mean, there's a lot of things here. If he's going to hardcast it, he really would like to play it pre-combat so he could attack with that 2-2 experiment one. I mean, yes, that means he'd be trading it for a Deathrite Shaman, but you have to respect Deathrite Shaman. I mean, if you're playing a Modern deck, there's a reason that card's banned in Modern.
Yeah, and that's actually a trade I think you'd want to take and want to make. So now this is going to evolve into a 2-2, but this may have been some missed damage. In a game that's as close as this, in a racing situation, you can't afford to miss that damage.
Well, you have to think about Gorklan Rampager here and how many turns are left in the game. So if you play it as a creature, it gets a chance to attack, and so you have 4 trample attacking power on the board. Now, Gorklan Rampager is better than a creature the moment he gets his second attacking, because that's like damage 5 through 8 that it's dealing. But if you look at the fact that Mann already in play has 2 Deathrites and an Insectile Aberration, like the odds that this game will last through a second attack for Gorklan Rampager are almost 0. This game's ending real fast, so it's just better to Blood Rush the card in that situation.
Mann gonna ponder, looking at a Wasteland, Abrupt Decay, and a Daze in this situation. Each player currently with no cards in hand. Of course, Mann's gonna add 1 from the ponder.
Yeah, and you have to think Abrupt Decay will seal up an already winning race for Mann. You know, he looks like he's gonna win the race on board, and if anything changes, he does have an insurance policy.
What he can do here, of course, is attack Mcdonough for 3 in the air, put you down to 5, block if necessary, Abrupt Decay the Tarmogoyf, then another attack in the air, put you down to 2, and Deathrite can clean up from there.
Right. He can play defense and offense at the same time.
So there's your attack for 3. Mcdonough's going to go down to 5. They actually decided to go with Wasteland. That would be a little surprising.
Yeah, he's, because how he plays this, he may be dead to another Gorklan Rampager if it's top decked. Which, you know, that's a lot of ifs, but yeah, if Mcdonough has another Gorklan for this Tarmogoyf, I think he can kill him.
Now, if that's not the case, Mann will be able to do the necessary chump blocking and activations of Deathrite Shaman to stay alive. However, a Lightning Bolt on an Insectile Aberration would actually be pretty good in this situation. So this game's not over just yet here for the Zoo player.
Well, it depends if there's 2 black mana sources for Mann. If he bolts the Insectile, I think Steven can just Deathrite him out.
He's only got 1 right now. He's got a Trop for blue and green, and then, of course, Bayou for the black and green. So he won't be able to drain twice in this turn. I was a little surprised, I suppose, by the way that he tapped his mana, because he took away the ability to do that, which is to double drain in 1 turn. So now you've got an attack here for 4, 8, and 9.
Okay, so you're saying, yeah, he'd have to keep both Deathrites alive because he has to chump with one of them this turn.
Yeah.
All right, I'm with you. And Mcdonough making the only play he has, that's swing the team.
Yeah, hope for the best. I think that's really all you can do.
Yeah, I think Mann keeping Wasteland is fine. Denying Horizon Canopy, you know, say it's Gorklan you lose to. You'd rather take away a draw from Ryan than hang on to that Abrupt Decay, I think. It's pretty close, though. It depends what routes, I guess, you're playing around.
Steven Mann in the tank here. I mean, this is basically the last turn of the game.
Yeah.
You have to imagine, right?
So if you're Mann, you think, okay, how do I lose here? Certainly, okay, Lightning Bolt is suspect number 1.
Yeah, and that's actually what Mcdonough has in his hand. Interesting.
If I'm Steven Mann at this point, I start thinking of doomsday scenarios sometimes, like, well, considering all the cards I've seen, I wonder if he has Boros Charm. I would actually be thinking that.
Yeah. You really do start to think now of what kind of cards can I lose to in this situation. That's a really real question, I think.
Yeah, you know Ryan's playing 4 bolts. He has to. He's sure he's playing 4 Nacatls. You know, brainstorm. All right, what's going to be in this list? I've seen Gore Clan. I can probably come up with most of the deck list here.
This looks like it might be a double block and experiment one. That's mighty interesting.
Well, he can gain 4 with both these Deathrite Shamans. I believe there are 2 creatures in the graveyard.
But if he does gain 4, then you just bolt down the Insectile Aberration and you're still doing just fine because he's going to lose one of these.
Yeah, I agree.
That bolt really does mess things up. So let's see. This is, of course, going to be removing a creature. There are plenty of those down there in the graveyard. So
Yeah.
let's going to remove Goblin Guide. Man's going to go up to 11. He's going to lose one of these Deathrite Shamans.
And I think you're absolutely right based on the mana here. He's in a tough spot. So this other Deathrite is going to have to gain life as well if Mcdonough chooses to go upstairs with the Lightning Bolts. He can't do that because he'll lose if he makes that play.
Yeah, he'll take 3 from the Delver, and then the Deathrite will activate and drain.
But if Man goes for an end-step drain on Mcdonough, he's going to die on the spot.
Yep.
So Man actually can't drain Mcdonough down to 3 even. And he doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, Man is in some real trouble right now, trying to learn and trying to figure out this situation. Didn't think Zoo would cause that much of a problem, especially given the way the turns went here for Man. The opening, 3 or 4 turns of the game went beautifully for him. Kept his life total high, found a Delver, took a little while to flip, and now Man says, I'm going to activate this right now. And I think he's going to look in the graveyard and see, okay, what can I target?
Yeah. Tarmogoyf and Nacatl, just like they are in Modern, are a really tough matchup for Delver decks. And that doesn't change just because they're playing Legacy. Yeah, he gets Brainstorms. Yeah, he gets some really unfair things. He gets Wastelands. But his creatures are just smaller.
Moving Ponder is actually awesome there. It slows down Tarmogoyf. 7 damage is going to come across. It's going to put Man down to 4. And that bolt's got to go towards Delver now, because it's not lethal. So, Lightning Bolt. Yep, fire away, take out your Delver.
And we know the top card for Man is Abrupt Decay. That's not going to do the trick. If only Deathrite could attack and drain for 2, he'd have it. He just needs to give it Vigilance here, really.
Man got a draw. You mentioned it's Abrupt Decay. That takes care of the Tarmogoyf.
He's got no end. This 4/4 Trampler, however.
Yeah, it may have been actually correct to cast that. And you can see the little bit of frustration here on Man's face. How did I let this one slip away?
It's not completely done. So he gets to chump the Rampager and activate Deathrite, but he loses the Deathrite.
There's Horizon Canopy, gonna take a free draw.
Mcdonough seeing if he can just settle the affair right now.
And we go with both. Those are coming in.
And I think Man's just priced into one play here. It's gonna have to be Abrupt Decay the Tarmogoyf. We see it right here. Put Deathrite in front of the Gore Clan Rampager. Boy, if only Mcdonough was at 2 and not 3.
I don't think he has to actually. He doesn't have to block yet because he can go up.
All right, he can
go up to 6
gain.
and go down to 2.
You're absolutely right. So he's going to keep the Deathrite. That's better. Yep, goes up to 6, down to 2.
The thing is, he knows his next card from Ponder, and I don't think that card's a Tarmogoyf. If it's a Tarmogoyf, it's great. There's a Loftman. Jeez.
Whoa, well, I better be something that wins now.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that card isn't anything. Because, again, I can't remember exactly what that card is from Ponder, but he knows what that card is. Yeah, it's a Daze, and he's just going to concede the game. So Ryan Mcdonough is going to win a very close one here over Steven Mann. Zoo wins game number 1 over Bug Delver.
Interesting matchup here. I'm sure not what Man was expecting to play against. It is a closer matchup than you'd normally expect with Delvers versus Nacatls, thanks to all these really efficient weapons that Man has. He can make his top decks better, but as you saw there, his creatures are just not up to the task of brawling with Mcdonough's cards.
It's very important for Steven to draw Tarmogoyf in this matchup. He didn't find one that game, and Delver was almost able to race in combination with multiple copies of Deathrite Shaman, but came up a little bit short. Also, let's give credit where credit is due. That top deck Lightning Bolt was very important there for Mcdonough, but he did draw one and was able to win game number 1. So we turn our attention to the sideboard, and yes, Steven Mann does have 15 one-ofs, so best of luck reading those off, Matthias.
That actually is 15. All right. Well, which ones are good in this matchup? Now, I imagine he would like to have True Name Nemesis is slow. He could still use it. He's probably going to go up on removal, so we'll start there. He has Diabolic Edict. He has a Disfigure. That hits some cards. It's not... How is it enough?
It can hit a Nikado on turn 1, Experiment 1, depending on where we're at in the game, Goblin Guide. It should not be able to kill Kurdape. Grim Lavamancer, Burning Tree Emissary, even though you don't really care all that much about killing that. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, even though Mann didn't see that. So if I have Disfigure, I would be bringing it in.
Yeah. All right, Disfigure, go for the throat. Toxic Deluge. There are weapons here that Mann can use, especially Deluge. It seems very good in the matchup. It's a sweeper that he can use. Outside of that, he has Maelstrom Pulse, so Mann can go up to more removal. He doesn't have any other large creatures in his sideboard, so it's really still the Tarmogoyfs that he can stabilize with.
Yeah, I think, again, Tarmogoyf is the most important card here for Mann. I think without a doubt. We take a look here at Mcdonough's sideboard. 4 copies of Ashen Rider. You have to imagine that's for the show and tell matchups. 3 Mindbreak Trap, 3 Gaddock Teague, 2 copies of Sulfuric Vortex, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, and an Ancient Grudge. Oddly enough, I don't like a lot of the options here that Mcdonough has available. Sulfuric Vortex is okay, but I like it much more on the play than on the draw. Don't really care for anything else. Teague's not very good. Mindbreak Trap and Ashen Rider are, of course, for different matchups. Grafdigger's Cage and Ancient Grudge as well. So we might see Vortex, we may not, but honestly, I think he just kind of stays put because it doesn't need to change too much.
Yeah, if he knows or suspects that Mann is going to go on a much heavier removal spell plan, Sulfuric Vortex does become better. But you're right, a lot of his sideboard is dedicated toward beating combo decks. He has to feel that he likes his matchup against fair decks. So, yeah, not much of a switch. And there's really not too much for him to board out either. A lot of his cards are just generally good in this matchup.
It's pretty straightforward. All kidding aside, I actually think this is a pretty difficult matchup here for Bug Delver. And heaven forbid that Mcdonough gets to be on the play one of the games.
Yeah, Mcdonough will get to be on the play if it goes to game 3. This can be difficult for Mann. I mean, Bug Delver, it's this really good tempo deck, but Tempo's always had trouble with one-drop aggro. And the good thing about Legacy normally is that there aren't really many one-drop aggro decks in Legacy where they just spam one-drops at you. A lot of them tend to be tempo decks as well. So you can get this weird, Delver, blue fight. The whole just honest, play creatures and swing them, that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, it's kind of odd thinking about it. Standard, we've seen Mono Red win the Standard Open to lead off Season 3. Then we saw Tom Ross win the Invitational with Mono Red. And, kind of the narrative and the story of that is Standard doesn't have a lot of low-to-the-ground aggressive decks. And a lot of people didn't really see these things coming. And not only did these Mono Red decks win, they destroyed the elimination rounds by just being much faster than their opponents, kind of mid-rangey, slow, off-the-ground decks. And, truth be told, you take a look at Legacy, they don't really have a hyper-aggressive deck that kind of keeps people in check. Zoo many moons ago was that deck, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting any lesson from watching any of our Open stays, you have to respect one-drop aggro.
Yeah.
That won both the Open and the Invitational. Right now, Mcdonough taking a deck that I don't think is one of the more powerful decks in Legacy and punching a hole through the metagame with it.
Yeah, I mean, the plan here is just to kill my opponent very quickly, and hopefully their hand isn't functional, or, their cards don't line up appropriately. Maybe my opponent doesn't draw Tarmogoyf, where it's at its best in the matchup, or hopefully I can get enough damage in before Tarmogoyf does show up, or I have a Rampager on time with it. I like the idea behind what he's trying to do, because truthfully, no one else is really trying to do it.
Yeah, Zoo's powerful. I think what keeps it off the radar normally in Legacy is it's got some difficult matchups. So, it's fair. It really doesn't have a great combo matchup. It's fast, but not as fast as a combo deck.
Yeah, of course.
And on top of that, I remember Zoo a while ago in Legacy was a top tier deck. Stoneforge Mystic really hurt Zoo when it got Batter Skull. Yeah. I want to say that's what knocked Zoo out of tier 1.
I can see that. There are plenty of cards as well, right? True Name Nemesis.
Sure.
Not to say that Zoo was a thing then, and True Name Nemesis knocked it away, but I can't imagine True Name Nemesis made things easier for Zoo.
It couldn't have made him better, having a creature that just doesn't die in combat. That's how Zoo gets through creatures most of the time.
You can try to swarm around it to the best of your ability, but it is pretty difficult to do. Terminus as well. We can't forget about that, making the matchup probably pretty good for these blue control decks. Again, it's all about, picking the right time, picking the right place, maybe picking the right metagame to play this deck, and favorable matchups can get you in a pretty good position. It looks like maybe these Delver decks is something that Zoo does clean up on. You see Mann's going to start off here with a Delver of Secrets. Mcdonough draws his card. He's got Narid Mesa, so we will see what he wants to search up.
It's hard to play a tempo game against someone who just has a bunch of 1-mana spells and spells that they don't need to flip. They don't have to jump through hoops to be as big as Mann's spells. They just start that way. You see Goblin Guide, Grim Lavamancer in his hand. So he has already a 1-drop that can kill Delver. He already has a way to race Delver. Goblin Guide, a little more of a liability in Legacy than it is in Modern, thanks to cards like Brainstorm. And it looks like Mcdonough's just going to start on the Lavamancer. He's going to go ahead and try to get Mann's threats off the board.
Not a bad place to start. Delver not going to flip here. See, Underground Sea was the draw. Now this go around, Mann does have Tarmogoyf, but it looks like maybe Delver's going to cause some trouble. Diabolic Edict is in Mann's hand. You're going to see an attack here, and Mcdonough is not going to block. Says, I will take the 1, and the follow-up will be an Edict. So what that means to me is that Mann would have been happy making that trade. The trade was not made, and now he's going to kill the creature.
Yeah, I mean, Delver's not essential to the game plan he has here. If you look at his hand, he has Tarmogoyf, he has another Delver, he has True Name Nemesis in his hand. So if he can stabilize the board that way, he'll be just fine.
Couple copies of Goblin Guy going to come in, going to reveal a Ponder twice. In for 4 we go. Mann already down to 16. And you do see Mann's hand. There is a Brainstorm, a Delver, a True Name, and we'll see if this Delver that's already in play will flip, and we already knew that it would, since Goblin Guide helped. Revealing a Ponder, so now there's a 3-2 in play.
Yeah, the one concern that Mann would probably wants to have here is that he doesn't have any more removal going on. He does have that wall in Tarmogoyf, but we may see, and we talked about this earlier, Gore Clan Rampager be a real big player.
Makes blocking with Tarmogoyf really tough.
You can even make blocking with True Name Nemesis hard. Remember, you know it's not going to die in combat. You can trample over everything but 1 damage.
Yeah. It's a good thing True Name Nemesis isn't like a 3-3. That would have been a disaster.
Well,
it's actually really important as 1 toughness.
Yeah, was it be Zealous? It gets Zealous Persecuted right now. Golgari Charmed. Yeah, if it was a 3-3, it'd be even more interactive than it already is.
Even if it was a 3-2, it would be a disaster, I think. See, a Ponder here. Going to show a Go for the Throat, an Underground Sea, and a Liliana.
Yeah, you can just, drown in sorrow it. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. That's Legacy playable. That's my favorite.
Even it's an upgrade to the Infest. See, you can scroll.
Yeah, you're right. You see every angle.
It's fine. Yeah,
Take a draw. Looks like the Sea is going to go to the grip. This will allow Mann to hit his land drop and play something else this turn. See if he wants to start by attacking with Delver. He could also just play Delver this turn, leave a Brainstorm. Could just be very mana efficient, drop a Tarmogoyf. Looks like it may be a Tarmogoyf, and it is.
Yeah.
So the size of that looks like it's going to be a 1, 2, 3. It's going to be a 4, 5. And Delver actually hanging back on defense. I'm a little surprised by that.
Well, it looks like what Mann's going to try to do is just really clog up the board for a while, trade things, and let True Name Nemesis hammer it home. But we will see what Mcdonough can do here. Remember, he does have that Gore Clan Rampager, so he has the ability to punch through a little bit here. And we'll see him go right ahead, swing with the Goblin Guides. And
throw twice.
Good card on top for Mann.
There's your blocks immediately, and this is Rampager. This card's so important for Mcdonough to be able to push through a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, it only tramples over for 1, which I find kind of amusing here.
Yeah.
Normally that guy just deals a boatload of damage. Not so this time. He does take care of a very necessary blocker.
Yeah. Able to clear out creatures, take care of necessary blocker, but truth be told, I think that's an exchange that Mann is fine with. He has a True Name Nemesis in his hand. He has a Brainstorm to play a little bit longer. He's drawing a copy of Go for the Throat. And now this is kind of the end boss here that Mann looks like he's going to cast in True Name Nemesis. He's weighing his options, of course, because there's a Delver, Brainstorm, and a Go for the Throat in the grip, but it's hard to say no to this right now.
Yeah, so if we're to talk about kind of what Mann's doing here, in Legacy, I think Zoo gets hurt by the fact of just how good the removal is in Legacy. A deck with, say, Bolt, Swords, Brainstorm. That could probably take care of a zoo deck. He's forced Mann into playing a control role this game, and because Legacy decks are powerful enough, even your tempo decks can morph into control decks when they need to. It's a little hard for Steven to take on this role, as he doesn't have too many cards that actually fulfill like the finisher requirements of a control deck. That said, he does have one. It's True Name Nemesis here, and he can sit behind this and draw more kill spells for at least a few turns.
Yeah, and then he can go on offense.
Yeah, I don't know if he can just, play like a true control deck and just run Mcdonough out of cards. I think Mcdonough will just continue to draw threats at a faster pace than Mann can find removal. But, so at some point, Mann's going to have to transition this True Name Nemesis.
Let's see what McDonough's got this turn. Looks like it may be Experiment 1. There's that. And the follow-up is going to be a Goyf, so that's going to evolve Experiment 1. So it's working its way towards turning into a relevant threat. You see Lightning Bolt of McDonough's hand, mystery card over there as well. So Mann's going to draw a card now. That's a copy of Liliana the Veil. He knew that was coming. Not great on this board. Hard to say if it's even great in this matchup. I think situations will present itself where it's good, but by and large, it just seems like a mediocre card in the matchup.
I mean, it's not actually bad here. So it's going to force Mcdonough to attack, or it's going to 2-for-1 him. It can Edict Mcdonough. I mean, it won't get a great creature, but it'll force Mcdonough to either suicide something into True Name or force him to bolt the Liliana.
Okay,
it seems fine.
That's not so bad, I guess. Delver's Secrets is the route that Mann is going to take. So that's going to come into play.
Yeah, and that looks like the game plan he's set up is he's going to go have True Name Nemesis sit on the ground, have Delver Secrets take to the air, and swing 3 at a time.
Well, there is Goblin Guide. That is not going to trigger Experiment 1. However, everything is going to come into the red zone here. So some Goblin Guide triggers will be placed in the stack. We might see a Brainstorm here. Maybe not, though. There's a real possibility that Mann would much rather, as there's a Verdant Catacombs for the first trigger, much rather cast Go for the Throat.
Yeah, you have to think if Mcdonough's doing this attack from 15 into open mana, I'd peg him on having a handful of burn.
Ponder time. Remember, Verdant Catacombs, of course, is in Steven's hand, but focusing right now and figuring out how exactly he's supposed to block. He says, I'd like to go here and here. I will chump block your Tarmogoyf. I will eat your Experiment 1. I want to whittle away these forces.
Yeah, taking only 4. I really like how Mann played that. The Delver's not actually that important to the game plan. Remember, Mcdonough drew him a card and showed him a Ponder. He's got a lot more action coming, and he has that Go for the Throat. You have to think if he goes for the throat of the Tarmogoyf on the end step here, this board looks pretty favorable for him again.
Yep, and I'm kind of with you in this situation. It looks a little bit strange to say, hey, why do you throw away his Delver's Secrets? To save damage, and in the grand scheme of things, the only creature that's important for him is the one that's actually on the table. Now, one thing as well is that if Mcdonough would have Gorkland Rampagered to Tarmogoyf, it's an absolute disaster then because of Go for the Throat. So, look, block looks a little bit strange, but I understand where Mann's coming from there.
Absolutely, in his hand, if you see, and that'll explain McDonough's line a little more. McDonough's hand's a pair of lightning bolts right now.
Yep.
So, as we know, Mann's at 5, not 11 in McDonough's head.
Yeah, in his head, yeah, virtually.
Yeah, in his head. And outside of Death Ray Shaman, Bug doesn't gain life.
Yeah.
So I want to say if you're Mann, you're going to look for that Death Ray Shaman. It'll be, once he starts gaining life, then he's in the clear. But the problem is he still can't attack yet. True Name Nemesis, yeah, it stops all the Goblin Guides. Mcdonough can suicide his way to 2 more points of damage if he needs to. That plus bolts and a bolt in hand. There are things going on that aren't too bad here.
Well, there's Liliana the Veil again. It's just all about whittling away everything. It looks like the elevator's going to go up here. Mcdonough's going to lose a Lightning Bolt.
Really heads up play by plussing that Liliana. He's just going to bully Mcdonough into attacking here.
Take a draw now. It's like another copy of Lightning Bolt here. So could have been at a virtual 2. Looks like it's actually Chain Lightning, but all the same.
It's a Curd
actually
Ape.
Curd Ape, okay.
Yeah.
Tricking me a little bit.
It is a black bordered single red card from like really early set.
It's a 2/3.
Yep.
Couple forests in play. Just gonna pass the turn back. No good attacks here. Mann no longer at that virtual 8 anymore either. Now virtual 5. Now he's just at a virtual 8.
Yeah, looks like Mann is stabilized through this game. Liliana, like I said, he's doing a good imitation of a bug control deck right now.
Yeah. It's not pretty, but it's getting the job done. Mostly off the back of True Name Nemesis being awesome.
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? So there's Bug Delver and Bug Control. They are different decks at heart, but there's a lot of crossover in the spells, so much so that after board, Man can become a bad Bug Control deck if he wants to. And when I say bad, it's not even that bad of a deck. He's a few cards off what he would optimally want to be.
The thing is this feels like this works pretty well in the play. Now, how well does it work on the draw? Because, again, assuming that Man does win this game, and I like the way that things are going for him at this point, he's going to be under the gun game 3, you have to imagine.
Yeah, on the draw, I think it's really important that Man either has something like a Disfigure on turn 1 or a Deathrite Shaman as his first creature.
Yeah, a little acceleration. Ponder's going to keep the cards there. See if Liliana wants to go up or down. You saw Man add a Daze to his hand. Not the most exciting card. Pretty good one to discard to Liliana.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm going to go down. I want to take care of one of the creatures. And so there goes Goblin Guide. It's time to follow up maybe with Delver of Secrets. And now maybe this Delver is the one that gets the job done. So there that is.
Just getting a card advantage. Like I said, playing like a control deck. Liliana now has gotten 1 card. She may get another. Ryan may have to bolt the Liliana, which Man's already winning there. I like the read he had. So last turn when he plussed the Liliana, Ryan reached for a mountain to make it look like he had Lightning Bolt. Then he didn't, and he discarded. And he discarded a Lightning Bolt. Now, if Man's being really acute here, he's going to realize, hey, Mcdonough has another Lightning Bolt. So he doesn't plus the Liliana, because if he did, that would just be making himself discard a card.
Now here's a Lightning Bolt. We'll see where this is going to go. If it's going to go towards Delver or Liliana, and it will go towards Liliana. However, Mcdonough has no good attacks thanks to True Name Nemesis. So Man is going to cast a Brainstorm in the end step, and I believe this will be to ensure that Delver does flip. So we're looking at a couple of cards here, and Brainstorm him to Torak. And don't forget about the Daze in his hand as well. And Man, of course, there we go. I think he may have thought he was looking at a Ponder.
Yeah. He's going to get to flip the Delver. That's the good news for Man. The downside is a lot of these cards are pretty low impact in the matchup. He's got a Brainstorm. That's good. But the Daze and him to Torak he has left, those really don't do too much here.
Thankfully for Man, now that the Delver is flipped into Insectile Aberration, you can actually put a clock on his opponent. You know, of course, you've got True Nemesis that's just sitting there as a wall, but now Man can actually say, all right, let's try to get this game over with, because truth be told, look at the clock here, we're working our way towards 10 minutes.
Yeah,
He's got to get moving. He can't take another draw.
No, and you see like how he's a little low on tools in this matchup. There 2 him to Turoks on top of his deck. That's not even a card that's particularly good here. So the question is, why are they still in his deck? Well, he probably boarded out his Force of Wills. That's 4 cards. Past that, you know, he didn't have that many things to board in. He had an Edict, a True Name, maybe a Maelstrom Pulse, Go for the Throat, Disfigure, maybe Dismember, maybe Toxic Deluge. There are weapons, but I mean, he wants to board out Spell Pierces too. Like, to a certain point, especially when he's on the play, he's gonna have to keep some hymns. And as you can see, it's not a great card in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, not great. Those are certainly not great on the draw either. Top card is gonna be a hymn. So, not so great. Opponent's not gonna have cards in their hand very often. You see Kurdave's gonna get in front of, True Name Assist is gonna get in front of Kurdave. Abrupt Decay is gonna take your Goblin Guide. Man's gonna take 2.
Yeah, and that makes that swing look real bad when Man has the kill spell. Mcdonough thought he was pushing 4 damage. He was sacrificing a creature for 4, but it actually was just for 2.
I'll see if Man wants to attack with both creatures. Not sure it changes the clock just yet. He can go put him from 14 to 8, 8 to 2, and then dead. So you see an attack here. It's going to put him down to 11, and then you can attack with both, go 11 to 5, and then 5 to dead. So
3 turns both ways.
Yep. There's a plateau. And so now you have to imagine that Man's going to attack with both creatures. Coast is clear at this point. I don't think there's any way for him to lose the game.
Man.
It would be very safe if he only attacked with 1, but yeah, I think he can afford to attack with 2. I can't imagine there's any sort of punishment here. So he does attack for 6, puts the opponent down to 5. Mcdonough's going to draw 1 more card here, but he can't stop the flyer at this point. As there's an attack here with Goblin Guide. Top card is a Tarmogoyf. Man's going to go down to 7. Mcdonough may have drawn a Lightning Bolt or a Chain Lightning here. He's going to pass the turn back. Maybe he's just bluffing here, maybe hoping Man won't attack.
Yeah, I think Man will see the attack.
Yeah, again, I mean, with Tarmogoyf as a blocker back as well, there's no reason, I think, not to send both creatures in. So he goes for reaching for both, going to send them in, and that's going to be a concession. So Stephen Mann's going to tie things up here over Ryan Mcdonough. Bug, Delver, and Zoo are going to go to a 3rd game here in just a moment.
Yeah. So Man ties it up at 1. This next game's going to be the harder one, though. Like we said, on the draw, Man has potential to fall far behind. Like I said, so maybe he's going to have some action at 1. Maybe he gets a Delver and hopes to trade off that Delver. If he can, it's like having a delayed 1-mana kill spell. He'd probably prefer just have a 1-mana kill spell. He has that in Disfigure. He doesn't have anything else at 1. Other than that, like I said, Deathrite Shaman, I think probably the best draw for Man here.
I think that's accurate. On the draw, with this deck, and you just want to keep up,
Yeah.
I think Deathrite Shaman does the best job. Of course, it's not going to be the best blocker because it's just a 1/2, and these creatures are all pretty large, or at least outclass Deathrite Shaman as far as power and toughness is concerned. But to be able to keep up and play multiple spells in a turn, that's what Man wants to do. And I actually think if he does play one on the other turns of the game, I wouldn't be surprised to see Mcdonough say, all right, I'm going to bolt that. Get that thing off the table.
Yeah, ideally he'd just have something like turn 1 Deathrite, turn 2 True Name Nemesis.
That would be a good draw.
Boom. Yep.
That'd be a good draw. And that would be a good plan as well. But I think he only has 1 True Name, right?
Just has 1 in the 75. It came out of the board. He was originally, if you can tell by the crossouts, was going to play 1 in the main along with the Vendilion Click. Ended up abandoning those, just playing the 12 main deck creatures.
I've actually been seeing that split a lot in these Delver decks. We think of Grand Prix Washington, D.C., Owen Turtenwald playing 4 Delvers, 4 Stoneforge, and then 2 copies of True Name Nemesis. And then everyone really just kind of did that. They said, I'll play, just 2 copies of True Name. It's great in the fair matchups. Now you're starting to see a 1-1 split between V-Click and True Name, which, to be fair, not too surprising. Vanilla Click is great. True Name is great as well, but they're good in different matchups.
Yeah, and you see he has another Vendilion Click and another. You move them both to the board,
Yeah.
so that way he can put them in the correct spot. If you main deck them, it means you're going to have a bad card every match, and a good card every match, which is fine because they're both blue, so they at least all can pitch to Force of Will at the end of the day.
Chances are you can find them with Ponder or Brainstorm and all the shuffle effects. So either way, it's not too big of a deal, but that's what looks to be the place that players are moving into right now, as Mcdonough is going to take a mulligan here on the play.
That's got to be pretty good for Man. One thing, because Zoo is not playing blue here as far as an aggro deck goes, is he's a lot more susceptible to bad draws than Man is. Man can keep a lot of things when you play 4 Ponder, 4 Brainstorm.
Yeah, you can fix things up. That's what those cards are great at doing. Mcdonough going to take a look at his starting 6 now.
I mean, and that's just it. Brainstorm's so powerful. 5 land hand. It's a Brainstorm and fetch land hand. No problem. Go ahead and keep that. And Mcdonough, though, Zoo can't keep a 5 land hand. I don't even know if there's any combination of creatures that makes him want to do it.
It's Goblin Guy time. And for 2 we go. Man going to show a Force of Will. Now, I'm not too surprised to actually see that in his deck on the draw, because hands are so bad on the draw.
Yeah.
I think he actually has turn 1 Deathrite too. So as far as the ideal situation here is, Man certainly has run into it. He's going to figure out what land to get, but there's Deathrite Shaman. This is a really good start here for Steven.
Yep, he has that turn 1 Deathrite. We'll see whether or not it gets the red spell in Mcdonough's hand. Mcdonough's got a forest to go with his mountain, and then a fistful of red cards. So not ideal for him. If he wants to get rid of that Deathrite, it may cost him his turn 2 creature.
I actually think Mcdonough has a pretty nice play here. He's got a burning. He's going to start by attacking. There's a Wasteland. He's got a Burning Tree Emissary. He could go Burning Tree Emissary into Curdape, or he could go Burning Tree Emissary into Lightning Bolt your Deathrite Shaman if he wants to slow things down. So there is Burning Tree Emissary. Let's see what the follow-up's going to be. It's going to be Curdape, so he wants to get aggressive, which is understandable.
I do like the play. It does mean the man's going to have 3 mana this turn. And a fetch land, actually a really good draw for Man here. Otherwise, if he wanted to play 3 mana worth of creatures this turn, he actually would have gotten rid of all the lands from his graveyard and therefore do some lateral damage on his Tarmogoyf. Now he can at least keep a land in the yard. Remember, Mcdonough not helping him at all as far as putting lands in the yard.
Man deciding how exactly he wants to go on this turn. Knows that he's got to get the ball rolling. About 7 minutes left in the round. I imagine they'll have enough time to finish, but as we mentioned at the top, a draw is about as bad as it can be for both players here.
Yeah. And actually, let's go back. I think that was actually a pretty risky keep for Man. So if Mcdonough had killed that Deathrite and Man didn't draw a fetch land, he'd be able to cast almost none of the cards in his hand. He'd be on a single source of colored mana.
Mm-hmm.
So as it is, he has any color off the Deathrite, and he now has a second color off the fetch, so he's fine on it.
Yeah, it looks like it's a Liliana time. I actually like this play here. Reason being, he takes it down, he takes care of a creature, but more importantly, it's going to make Tarmogoyf bigger. Because if he had played Tarmogoyf that turn, it actually could have died to Lightning Bolt.
And Mcdonough is going to... You wonder... whether he takes care of the Liliana. I think he has to. He has Bolt, Chain Lightning, Chain Lightning. Yeah, and he's going to split up the damage. A plus on Liliana is actually pretty good right now.
Disfigure being revealed. Liliana's going to bite the dust. Tarmogoyf's getting bigger as we go.
Great top card for Steven Mann. And he's at a healthy 13. Well, kind of healthy. I mean, there is 9 points of burn in Ryan's hand, but he also has Death Rate going on, so he has his life gain in play.
I like killing Death Rate here, personally. We might go upstairs, but I do like killing Death Rate.
All right, Death Rate gone. I like that as well. I don't think you can leave it. If you're planning to go upstairs with burn spells, it is more damage, I think, to kill the Death Rate than to go hit Mann with it.
We've talked about the importance of Tarmogoyf in this match, and it has shown up to the party. And it is pretty large. There are creature, sorcery, and planeswalker in the bin. So it's going to be a 3-4 right now with the potential to be so much more because Mann does have a fetch land in play.
Now here's where Mann's deck fails a little bit of the being a control deck test. So normally here, this would be a really bad spot for a Zoo deck. You know, he can't attack anymore. His opponent's at 13, but he can't just like keep playing a creature every turn and wait. Yeah. And Mann doesn't actually have a way to start ending this game.
Yep.
So you see there, Burning Tree Emissary into Chain Lightning to the face.
Mann's going to go down to 10. Virtual 9 if he wants to sacrifice that fetch land.
I like how, normally you wouldn't like doing this with Chain Lightning. I like it here for a couple reasons. One, Ryan only has 1 red mana, so he can't cast these things when he needs right at will. 2, he has seen from game 1 that Mann may be playing post-board Hymn to Tarax. It's correct, I think, to get rid of these burn spells. Probably everything but the Lightning Bolt. Maybe even get rid of the Lightning Bolt in case he draws a red creature.
Disfigure says, get that thing out of here.
Yeah, Mann's just keeping things clean. So like I said, playing like a control deck, but we'll see if he can actually control the game.
Yeah. I don't know if he plays a role for wall. I mean, he does have removal spells, and if he senses weakness, he can, do something along the lines of, all right, Pulse your Curd Ape, attack you for, X, and, really try to deal some damage here.
Yeah, he has Abrupt Decay and Maelstrom Pulse, so he actually can kill everything right now. It's really fortunate for Mcdonough that, well, in some ways these lands have hurt him, but it's something that's been really good that he has had basic forest and basic mountain.
Yeah.
As you see a bunch of wastelands in Mann's hand.
While Mcdonough shows up to the party, Mann's going to fire off an Abrupt Decay here, I believe, just trying to figure out exactly where he wants it to go. So there is Abrupt Decay. It's going to take down the Mcdonough.
It's only a 2-2 right now, but it has potential to get the biggest.
There's a Bayou. Just going to pass the turn back with the ability to hardcast a Force of Will. Tarmogoyf, I believe, is a 5/6 instant sorcery planeswalker.
Yeah. So, and what I like about this play from Mann is has to get full economy out of these cards. The fact that he has a Force of Will that he can hardcast, that's a 1-for-1, which he probably wasn't expecting to get at the beginning of the game.
I think the thought process here is, what? Eventually you'll start drawing lands.
He has to, like I said, to do a control deck impersonation, he's got that 5-mana cancel. He's got to make all his spells just be 1-for-1s, even though they typically, that's not what they do in matchups.
And I'll get you eventually. So Force of Will does take care of Tarmogoyf. You see Tarmogoyf sitting at a 5/6 now. Mann waiting to patiently waiting on tap.
Mann has the table answered right now. He has the Pulse and Abrupt Decay for the 2 creatures. He has the finisher in Tarmogoyf. He has nothing else, though. I'm wondering if we'll see him pull the trigger, kill everything, and go to work.
This is going to be the Pulse. So you see he's going to tap 3 mana. And actually, he already used the Abrupt Decay a little bit earlier, so just Wasteland and Underground Sea are the other 2 cards in his hand. That being said, I think he can just Pulse, take care of Curd Ape here, leave Goblin Guide in play because it can help draw him some cards and start to actually get aggressive. He's actually still going to play defensively.
Yeah, I was wondering whether he'd get aggressive there. Racing Goblin Guide to me seems like it may be a fine thing to do because either you're drawing a spell, which helps you win the race, or you're getting a free card off to Goblin Guide. That said, Ryan Mcdonough's going to go ahead, and while he's tapped his red mana so that it doesn't get him to think, he's going to send another bolt upstairs. Mann is down to 5. Yeah, he fetched once while at 9, so that 5 is correct.
I actually do like the casting of Lightning Bolt simply because if Mann drew this card, he would have ended up losing it. So, bye-bye Goblin Guide. There's a Wasteland. Pass the turn back. Mann playing this little attrition game. Mcdonough says, I may have accidentally seen the top card of my deck, so we might get a shuffle here.
Yeah. Great draw by Mann. Like I said, he's doing the control deck impersonation. It's slow. But now he has the Liliana. He has potential to answer all the creatures and start swinging with Tarmogoyf. But that 5, that is a low number.
5 is low, as is the clock in the middle, ticking down. I don't love, like, that's why I would want to take a more risky play and, like, risky line. Like simply because, okay, at this point in the game, a draw is just no good, you know?
Draw's no good.
And so, like, I feel like if I am Steven, I have to win. I don't have a choice. I actually have to win.
And look at this draw by Mcdonough. A Grim Lavamancer. That's going to demand a removal spell. It's protected from Liliana. It can kill Liliana. It can kill Man. Yeah, he sees, okay, he's going to go ahead and swing with Goyf.
Yeah, he can finally attack now for 5 simply because he drew another Tarmogoyf. So now he can play offense, defense. One gets in, one gets back on defense. So, and that's going to come. Liliana's going to tick up. Man's going to discard a land. He'll just pass the turn back. He's going to try to kill Mcdonough as fast as he can now. That is a Taiga. You know Grim Lavamancer's not going anywhere. So pass the turn back. Man's going to untap. He's going to take a draw.
And you see a time extension added there as they resolve that deck issue.
And in we go here for 10.
And 5, that critical number for Mcdonough, for Man at least. Now he's down to 5. 1 Goyf is lethal. One question is if Mcdonough can get rid of all of any one creature type here, and I don't believe he can.
No, for Mcdonough, you're going to put your opponent down to 3. You're going to hope to draw Bolt, Chain Lightning, or Gore-Clan Rampager. I guess Goblin Guide would do it too. There's an Experiment 1, which means he has to block with both of his creatures.
Now, is Man, this is a big, is Man at 2 or is Man at 3?
Man's at 3, he's not at 2. There we go.
I was like, whoa, that was a real good Grim Lavamancer activation.
There'll be blocks on both parties here. Simply because there have to be.
Well, Mcdonough looking like he's going to be 1 point short here.
He's got draws?
Yeah. If there was no way, if Man could have gotten rid of all the creatures in graveyards, that would have done it. If he could have just shrank one of the Goyfs, but nope, he only can get Man to 1. Will Mcdonough win? Did he get there on the top deck? He's not slamming it.
It's not a Bolt or a Chain. It's just a Savannah, and that's going to do it. Steven Mann is going to win this match just in time. 2 games to 1. Buck Delver going to take down Zoo, and that means Steven Mann is likely moving on to our elimination rounds here at 8-1-1.